Hi, my name is Miriam and I am from Tech Milenio Campus San Nicolás, and I'm going to talk about the transformation of society. I will talk about the important historical events of the last 3 decades from the crisis of the socialist bloc until today, the digital era. First of all, I'm going to talk about the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall was erected on August 13 in 1861 by the Soviet bloc to protect its population from elements that could prevent the construction of a socialist state in East Germany. On November 9 in 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall occurred, announcing a new government with free elections. The historical event that followed is the Persian Gulf War. Iraq decides to invade Kuwait on October 2 in 1990, but this is denounced by NATO and approved a military operation in 34 countries led by the United States to liberate Kuwait, and on February 28 in 1991, Iraq recognizes the defeat and lets it free. And the dissolution of the USSR and the rise of the CIS. On December 21 in 1991, after an internal crisis, disputes and setbacks to the disappearance of Gorbachev's government by the Russian Soviet Socialist Republic, the creation of the Commonwealth of Independent States was formalized, officially recognizing the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and Russia takes its place. After the Cold War. When the USSR falls in 1991 and the Cold War ends, the United States remains the only world power, what created a unipolar world, and capitalism begins to grow. Socialism loses its leader, the USSR, and for all this some socialist countries become capitalist. Now I'm going to talk about a new world order. In the unipolarism begin to arise new regional alliances like possible superpowers like the European Union that defeat the United States. Transactionalism aspires to build new governments and states in which they advance and overcome nationalism. The ideas of each country are not criticized even if they are different from ours. Look for tolerance, respect, and equality. Neoliberalism is a political stance and seeks to reaffirm the aforementioned principles to achieve economic growth. Mexico began with this position with the presidency of Carlos Salinas de Gortari and ended with the signing of the Free Trade Agreement. Finally, I'm going to talk about globalization and digital era. The digital revolution has marked our era. It begins with the invention of television and the telephone, and follows many technological advances that have changed our daily lives. The main innovation of the revolution was the computer in the 20th century. Another innovation that has marked profound change is the Internet, that has helped the globalization and facilitated, as well as the advances in science and technology. Now, there are important terms that we need to know to understand better this topic. The unipolar world. The unipolar world is when a country is the only world power. All countries depend on their products and their economy. It has an economic system that most countries have, and their ideas are expanded by countries. This happened at the end of the Cold War. Another terms are the globalization and terrorism. Globalization is integration of the various international societies into a single global capitalist market. It is characterized by the interdependence of countries. It meant a process of elimination of distances due to technological advances, such as communication, and science, such as medicines. Terrorism. Terrorism refers to using violence or threatening to use it by individuals or groups individuals against other individuals or even sectors of society. This is the course governments or politicians to respond to political, social, or religious demands. Another term is the digital era. It is a phenomenon that has historically marked our times. It begins with the invention of television and telephone, and it has been followed by many technological advances, such as the progress of the computer in the mid-20th century. Also the internet that has totally changed everyday life, as well as the media. Day by day, the technological advances are increasing. Why did the globalization emerge? Globalization begins because when the world becomes unipolar, countries begin to depend economically on the United States and their productions. The number of capitalist countries grows and they begin to have external relations. In most cases, what caused the terrorist attacks of 20th century? The different ideas of politics, society, and religion made some people react violently and did not accept or respect the ideas of others. One example is the terrorist attacks of the Twin Towers in New York in 2001. This event left terrorism as a threat to the world, and then more terrorist attacks followed. How does the end of the Cold War relate with the unipolar world? Before the Cold War ended, the two world powers were the United States and the USSR, for what the world was bipolar. At the time the war ended, with the fall of the USSR in 1991, the United States remains the only power, so that the world goes from being bipolar two powers to unipolar, a single power. And the final question is, how has the digital era influenced today's society? It has influenced it in many ways, such as computer, television, telephone, cell phone, internet, applications, tablets, holograms, and means of transport, among many other products that makes our lives easier and practical. The technological advances go from our own home to companies and even hospitals. It has changed our life completely. With this, we've finished this model where we see how the world enters a new era. Thanks for your attention.